Welcome to the Viva Vegan podcast with me, Faye.
And me, Lex.
Hi, India, and welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thank you for having me.
No, of course, thank you for joining us today. So, most of our listeners are going to know you from Love Island, so we will talk about that a little bit shortly. But you've actually had a very diverse career. You've been an influencer, worked as a model, a vegan chef, and last year you launched your first recycled swimwear collection with Pour Moi, so well done on that.
Thank you. Yeah, I've done a few bits and bobs. I mean, I feel like you've given me a great introduction. I feel like you've bigged me up a bit there. Yeah, I've done a few bits. So I did Love Island. It's like 3 years ago now. And then prior to that, I was a model. So I did a few bits, used to work with Pour Moi. So then when I came out and they offered the opportunity to, actually it was before they offered me an opportunity to start like designing with them. I literally was like, this is my dream job. And since then we've just been like, we brought out quite a lot of collections, and then we went into swim, and then made all our swimwear. It's actually made from recycled fishing nets. So yeah, I've done a lot.
No, that's amazing. Yeah, I was reading up on it, and you've got like plastic bottles and waste yarn and all sorts of things. What was the kind of reason for you for wanting to kind of move into that and work with sustainable fashion?
So I've also just started, I mean, wasn't the question, sorry, but
That's all
I've
right.
also started a sustainable clothing range which is made from recycled fabrics, and it's all like basics and things that will, like timeless pieces that can stay in your wardrobe for years and years. They're not going to go out of fashion, they last really well, and they're made from 95% recycled fabrics. So that's like the latest thing. I think like fashion is just a huge problem for the environment, and one of my main reasons for being vegan is environmental. So then it kind of is a bit of a it doesn't go alongside each other well to feel strongly about something over there, and then in the other aspect of your life just completely ignore that it's going on.
That's true. There's a lot of people who are doing that now. They'll do like a lot of charity shop buying, or it's kind of like in the olden days, you'd buy like a good coat and that would last you for 10 years and things. And then we had the kind of rush of, quick popular fashion, and a lot of online sites like sprung up as well. So yeah, it's great that you're getting involved in that. And how's it going so far? Is it going okay, or?
Yeah, it's been really good. I mean, it's been a learning curve, that's for sure, because with Pour Moi, I do like the designing and we have loads of meetings like that, but I don't have to think about anything logistically. So yeah, it's been really, really eye-opening, and a big learning curve, but I've enjoyed it. Like, it's exciting, and it's nice to know you're doing something which hopefully is so much better and gives people the option to buy something that's better for the planet.
Amazing. So one of the things that was really impactful that we were actually speaking about in the office was the campaign that you did with PETA, and that was back in 2020. How did that kind of come about? Did they approach you, or did you approach them?
So after I came out of the show, they approached me and were like, we'd love to. Obviously, they were like top on my list, like of brands to work with. Like, they do some amazing work. So yeah, they approached me and were like, we've got this idea for a campaign. Like, would you be interested? They knew I did like underwear and swimwear modeling. So in the picture, it's kind of like, it's like have you seen it?
Yeah. You've got like the bits of steak kind of written across your body, haven't you? Sort of sat.
Yeah. So it's like I've basically become a body in the butchers with all the things, but they're so lovely to work with. And it's difficult, I think, with veganism to get the balance right, because you want to get the message across, and sometimes something shocking like that is the best way to do it, but also you don't want people to feel, you kind of want to, I have this thing that if you go too hard, maybe people can get their back up. So you also want to like get their attention and then like discuss it with them and bring them in so they kind of really listen to what you're saying rather than being defensive.
No, it's a really good point. And when people first go vegan, and I was one of them, and I think everyone is, you kind of just force it. You're like, why are you doing this? Can't you see it? And it's like, people are like, yeah, we are aware, but they don't want to think about it.
Yeah, it's so true.
But that was why that campaign was so good. And for our listeners as well, obviously it's audio. So if you Google India Reynolds and PETA, you'll see the image. It's kind of India, and she's got words with shoulder, ribs, rump round written across her body, and it just draws that parallel between pigs and cows being killed for their flesh, and it shows like human flesh as well, and makes that it is a really impactful image, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. It definitely catches your attention. We did another one which is a little bit probably a little softer, in a leaf dress more recently, which was cool as well. Someone literally made a dress out of spinach. It was honestly sensational.
Wow, they actually made it out of spinach, the whole dress.
I'll send you the photo. Yeah, a whole dress out of spinach. It was wild.
That's amazing. What was the caption for that? What was behind that one?
This was just about veganuary and trying being vegan.
Brilliant. I mean, you've talked kind of like with the sustainable fashion and drawing attention to kind of the plight of animals through your work, and with charities. And if you weren't vegan, do you think you'd still want to do that as much, or is it kind of really impacted by the fact that you're vegan?
Well, I guess it kind of goes well alongside it, doesn't it? Like, I don't know if PETA would necessarily want to work with me if I wasn't vegan. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes sense. So how's being vegan kind of impacted your life, and how did that journey into veganism begin for you?
So I went vegan maybe about 6.5 years ago. I feel like at first it was quite difficult, and sometimes you feel a little bit I don't know if you found this, but sometimes you feel like with your group of friends, if everyone's still, especially then, there wasn't many vegan options, so if you're going out for dinner and stuff with people, it like almost got a bit awkward because everyone would be ordering whatever, and I'd be like, okay, I need a vegan option, but you don't want to be like too difficult, and you don't want to like stop going out for dinners and stuff. So that was a bit tricky. You feel a bit like you're out on your own for a while, unless I guess you've got like a really good friend who also but they're all like obviously supportive of whatever I'm doing, but sometimes you're like, oh god. And then it was so much less. I think now it's become, I was talking to someone the other day actually, and we were saying veganuary, although it's like been big this year and there's been a lot of stuff around, I feel like it almost hasn't been as big because a lot of people are either going vegan or they're going vegan a couple of days or a few days a week anyway, so it hasn't been like as much, which is a good thing. It's still, people are trying it, but they don't feel like they need to do a whole month because they've already incorporated it into their diets. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. And if and that's great as well, because if people say 80% vegan but all the time, it would make such a big impact, rather than just everyone doing it for 1 month.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I just watched a load of documentaries and was like, this isn't for me. There was one clip, I'm sure you've seen similar, of like the male chicks.
Oh yeah.
And then I was like, no, like I actually can't. This is horrid. And I just went. I used to eat everything as well, like steak, like anything. And I just overnight was like, no, that's it.
That's amazing. So you didn't make the transition into vegetarianism first. You just overnight.
Out, yeah.
Wow.
So it was a bit hard. I think once you do something like that, as long as you've done it, you've got the willpower at first, then you're all right. Get through the first couple of months and then it'll be fine.
That's amazing. And how did you feel after a couple of months of doing that? Did you feel different at all? Like
similar. I feel like being vegan, you get maybe like less bloated and less like uncomfortably full after meals. But yeah, similar. How long have you been vegan?
Oh my gosh. So I remember being 26, which was over a decade ago now.
Oh my god, you're so young.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and I remember being 26 and I was already vegetarian, so I'd been vegetarian a long, long time. But 26 was when I was like, no, I'm done with this. And I started drinking really healthy, and I changed my lifestyle too. I was going out clubbing a lot less and things. As you hit that 27 age, you start a bit.
I mean, it's not happening to me yet.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say you start growing up a bit, and I'm like, did you, Faye? Did you really know?
I think as well, like what you have to be careful of when people, like if anyone's like thinking of trying it for the first time, if you decide you want to do veganuary and then you have one day where you like eat a bit of like, I don't know, chicken or fish or have some cheese or something, like there's kind of this thing like, oh, then I failed. No, you haven't. Just because you've, had one thing like that, if all the other days you've been vegan, then you've literally come so far. So then even if you decide you're going to let yourself have a bit of cheese once a month, but the rest of the time, like you were saying before, you're going to be vegan, or you're going to have a little bit of fish when you're away on holiday, but the rest of the time you're going to be vegan. Like that isn't a failure. That's still a massive, massive achievement.
Massively. And that's the thing for people who are getting into it from starting from scratch. And when you first start, I mean, a lot of the times it was accidental. You'd completely forget to look for something that was labeled, and you'd make the assumption it was vegan, and it's got the big green packaging, and you're just clumsy or tired. And I think for people starting out, don't beat yourself up if you make a mistake, or you not even make a mistake, like you say.
Yeah, and how much easier has it got? That's the main plus for us.
Exactly. I mean, I was so excited, and I had to remind myself it is Veganuary. I was like, oh my God, there's just so much more vegan stuff hitting the shelves this year. And I was like, wait, it is Veganuary, but hopefully they'll keep it.
Yeah, hopefully they will. I went to Aldi the other day, and they honestly have got so much selection, and I was like, this is such a treat. And obviously it's so much cheaper than like the Marks and Spencer's, like Plant Kitchen or whatever. They had the cheeses, soft cheese, everything. I was like, this is amazing.
Well, it's a game changer, isn't it? I've just moved in, and down the road there's the big Asda. So I've just like taken all of the cheese from there.
Amazing.
One of the things we found within influencers as well is we talked to quite a few of them, and a lot of them are sort of scared to speak out about veganism because they're scared of, how it'll harm their brand or their brand perception and image. But you're really good at sort of talking about a range of topics, because you've described yourself as curvy, and the detrimental impact of talking about people as being curvy on young girls. And I read quite a few doing the research before you came on. You were talking about there not being enough age diversity on Love Island, and defending doing an OnlyFans, about it being a subscription platform and the bad reputation that it's got, as well as talking about vegan issues. So is that something you've always just been comfortable in your own skin, or?
Maybe not always, but I feel like as I've got older, you kind of become more, you don't care as much, I guess, what people think necessarily of you. So then you kind of say, and I guess the more you learn about things, the more confident you become to talk about them. So like when I was first vegan, maybe I wasn't as good at articulating it, but then after you've done it for a while, you learn more about it, you're more into it, so then you can speak about it. But yeah, I'm happy to talk about, I don't share like loads and loads of like personal stuff on my social media or anything like that, but then when it's things like diet or like you were saying about OnlyFans or stuff like that, then I think, yeah, it's important to talk about, especially with like social media the way it is, and like the way people feel about their own bodies and stuff like that. It is a huge subject, so I think it is important to talk about stuff like that. But yeah, the Love Island, the age diversity. So, okay, it's difficult, isn't it, to get the balance? Because I'm like, I would love to see, I'm 32 now, so I'm like, I would love to see like an older Love Island, but I understand the problems. I'm like, I need to see some like other like ages and other body types in the villa. But from their perspective, like you can't have a huge age range in one villa, because that might be like a little bit weird. Do you know what I mean?
You don't want it to be too creepy, like a 55-year-old man and a 22-year-old girl. It's like,
we don't need like a Hugh Hefner situation going on. But I think I have heard rumours that they are going to do like an older Love Island. So I would actually be so interested to watch that. Like people that have, I don't know, been married before, or been through this, or been widowed, or I don't know, like I love First Dates. Do you ever watch First Dates?
Oh my God, yeah, it's the best. It's so good, isn't it?
Such a good show, and I feel like everyone on there has such an interesting backstory, so I would love to see a Love Island more like that, and like we said, with a much bigger range of like body diversity. I was like described as the curvy one when I was in there, and I'm just like, there's absolutely like no way that should be the case. I mean, I will absolutely take being called curvy, but if you're using curvy as a term for like, do you know what I mean? I don't think it's I don't think it's great.
No, it's definitely not. And that's a really good point. You see people on social media as well, and it's like a lot of these photos are airbrushed, and it's not the real person, and that's what's displayed now. And it's like we know this because we've grown up with this, but when you're like 13 and you're like looking at this, I would not want to be like a teenager now.
No, I always think a really good way to remind yourself that people don't look, I mean, it's not something you can do every day, but a real good way to remind yourself that people don't look like that all the time, and that that's a posed photo with lovely lighting that's probably been edited, that's all of the above. I just think, like, when you go to the beach on holiday, if you look around that beach of people in bikinis, how many people do you see that look like the photos on Instagram?
Yeah.
Literally none, because no one looks like the photos you see on Instagram. Okay, there might be one person out of like, every like million or something, but realistically, they're not bodies that exist.
No, that's really good. So let's talk a little bit about Love Island. How was it for you being vegan in the villa? Because we don't actually see a lot of the food eating and things like that. So what was it like?
It's actually quite creepy, isn't it? You never see we're like robots that don't eat. Yeah, the food was fine. I really liked the food. I feel like it got quite a hard time. People used to really moan about it, but I thought it was absolutely great. They always gave me good vegan options every day. I thought we had loads of variation. You didn't get to choose anything in the sense of you couldn't say, oh, can I have I don't know, Chinese today or pasta today? Like, it just came and that's what you were having. But I quite liked that. You don't have to put any thought into it. You didn't have to wash up. You didn't have to cook. I mean, it was great.
Yeah, it sounds like the dream, to be honest.
Only thing I hated is they used to get these cakes every day. I don't know if you noticed, but sometimes, not everyone, but in some series, and it definitely happens on ours, and the people that it happened to won't even mind me saying this because we used to talk and joke about it a lot. They used to deliver these huge cakes every day, and I couldn't have them because they weren't vegan, but they were absolutely massive, and everyone just used to, not like, a lot of them used to like eat, and from when they came in the villa to when they were like leaving the villa, they'd literally put on like a couple of stuff.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and we'd always have like chips and stuff. That was always an option. No one can resist a chip.
This is very true. Why were they delivering cakes every single day though? That seems a bit excessive.
Well, there's like quite a lot of people, so I guess they just do it as like a dessert option. I don't know.
Fair enough. How were the other housemates then? When you were getting like your vegan food and things like that, were they receptive to it? Did any of them ask about it?
They were fine. I feel like Jordan tried to try it for like 2 days. Yeah, they were fine. Like, it was actually really good. Me and Ovi used to hide the hummus at the top of the fridge because I was like, it's really unfair. Everyone else can eat everything, and like, this is my one snack that can stay in the fridge. So we used to like try and hide. But yeah, like, they were totally open to it, and also there was always like quite a lot of the vegan options. So sometimes if they finished theirs, they would then try the vegan one, or they'd think it looked nicer. So yeah, it was good.
Oh, really nice. How was it for you? Because I know on your series you didn't have to do any of the I don't think it was like the food-based challenges, was it? But
No.
and I know they're a thing of the past now, but did you see any of those challenges?
Have I seen them on the show before? Yeah. I've seen them on the show, but yeah, I don't know what they would have done if I was in then. I didn't actually have to do any. I only had to do like other stupid things.
Fair enough. How was it for you then after Love Island? Because it was just so big, and like especially in the UK, it was just, you get quite a lot of reality TV shows and they all seem to do really well, but I don't think anyone predicted how big it would be.
Yeah.
And for you, how was it kind of being catapulted then into like the public eye?
It was absolute, like, now when I think back to that time, obviously it's quite a while ago now, so it's like completely calmed down, it's way like nicer, but at the time I feel like it was such a whirlwind. I don't even really remember a lot of what was going on or happening. It just seemed like came out and were like getting shoved here, there and everywhere, and doing all these things and like press stuff and all the rest of it. It's really overwhelming when you first come out, especially, and like, I'd worked before in an industry that wasn't like miles apart from it, but even then I was like, this is crazy, and I was a bit older, so I do worry a little bit how that would affect you if you were kind of like 18 or 19 and, you know, had never like experienced anything like that.
So strange. Did you have like paparazzi and things like that? And
Yeah, it was completely mental.
oh my gosh, yeah, very weird when you.
It's fun for like one day.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, like I went out for lunch with my best friends and one of her daughters, and we went just like to a little shopping centre not far away, and we couldn't eat our lunch because everyone was coming and asking for pictures, and I was like, no, this is insane. Like, this needs to stop because I just want to go out and have a normal life. So I'm glad now it's like the odd person, but it's so much calmer.
So the streets of Reading are safe again.
Oh, thank God.
That's good. So can you tell us a little bit more about what you've kind of got planned for the next couple of months? Obviously, you're going to be quite busy with the clothing line, it sounds like.
Yeah, so lots of stuff going on with the clothing line. We've got some more Pour Moi stuff coming out in the next couple of months for spring. And I've got a podcast with my friend Megan called Kids, Cocktails and Carnage. So we're going to be recording one of those a week, just like what we get up to and general chit chat. And yeah, that's like so far the plan, but there's a few other things in the pipeline, but yeah, they're the main ones at the moment.
Amazing. So Kids, Carnage and Cocktails, just to make sure this isn't just like watching kids on cocktails or anything.
No. I know, I think we might need to change the name. Kids, Cocktails and Carnage, because there's two of us. She's got 3 children. Well, we kind of share them. She's got 3 children. Cocktails because we like cocktails, and Carnage because that's what it becomes.
Brilliant. No, that sounds exciting, to be honest. I like that. Lovely. Well, thank you so much for chatting to us today.
Thanks for having me. It's been lovely.
Brilliant. And yeah, I'll look out for the podcast. And yeah, thank you very much for speaking to us.
Thank you. See you later.
See you later. Bye.
Right then, Faye, having never watched Love Island in my entire life, I think you're going to have to give me a bit of a premise of the show. Like, what is it? Is it kind of like Big Brother with a bit of I'm a Celebrity chucked in there? Like, what do these people have to do when they go on Love Island?
Absolutely. So Love Island is... It is basically a bunch of sexy singles. They're in their 20s, they're young, they kind of go into this villa and they try to find love on this paradise island, basically. And what happens is each week different couples will get voted off and they'll have to do a series of tasks. There's all sorts of different tasks. I mean, in some of them they have to eat some disgusting foods, and apparently there's like an unseen later edition where they do like lap dancing demonstrations and things like this. It's basically just a bit of titillation for people in their 20s. You know what it's like.
Well, it's a big hitter. I've heard a lot of things about it. I've just never actually managed to see it. But when you say that it's all about sexy singles, I mean, India is pretty sexy. Like, what a beautiful person.
Yeah, she is. She seems really kind as well and genuine, and yeah, like her heart's definitely in the right place with the kind of things she's chosen to sort of talk about and be involved with.
What I found particularly interesting about her fashion venture was that she's created a lot of it from recycled fishing nets, and that like strikes in the heart of me, because there's just the plastic issue is just, again, one of these things that we're going to just bury ourselves under. There's so much plastic waste out there that it's really cool to see young entrepreneurial people coming forward with these like recycled fabrics that are sustainable, and like she said, you know, they're not going to go out of fashion. So I'm assuming a lot of it is just going to be your basics that she's working on, which is really cool.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of lingerie sets and things like that she's doing. And it's a great idea. I mean, look at it's heartbreaking to even talk about the state of the oceans and what's happened to them, and you know, just destroyed basically by all this disgusting plastic waste that's it's not needed, it's not necessary. Mm-hmm. So yeah, like you say, anyone who can come along and do that and turn something so ugly into something so beautiful is, you know, it's brilliant. And I think more and more people need to do that. And it's great talking about, you know, net zero and these climate waste sort of challenges and making these promises, but this is what needs to also do. We need to look at everything across all industries and just look at what we can do with the waste we've created.
Yeah, and it was interesting to hear her talk about even you know, she's been vegan for 6.5 years, but even when she first went vegan, she struggled to go out for dinner with friends and things like that. And like, when I think about it 6 years ago, I still think, oh yeah, like everybody had it so easy 6 years ago. But I guess they didn't, you know, like now everybody's got it so easy.
No, it's the Bristol bubble again.
But I mean, you know, when you're challenging a lifetime of what you know, like ideas and what you've been brought up with, and, you know, your comfort foods from when you were a kid, it is still actually really difficult to go vegan. And especially if you don't know any other vegans, to be accepted by your friendship group, your peers, you know, even in the workplace. We're quite fortunate, obviously, that we work in a vegan workplace and being vegan is part of the job, I suppose. But, you know, for others that don't have that luxury, yeah, wow, hats off. That is a really difficult thing to do.
No, you forget. We really do forget. I mean, even the other week I went to the pub, and honestly, it was just a tiny little pub, but had the like beautiful mains. You know, it was like cod loin for this and blah 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 blah, all these really expensive kind of food items. And then I was like scouring the board. I was like, come on. I was like, I could see the sausage and mash. I'm like, is it vegan sausage and mash? And at the bottom it was like plant-based burger, and I was like, oh, it's not even going to be a good one. And it wasn't. And it's just like, my friend ordered all these, you know, like really like gourmet things, and you sat there like, oh. And that's just because, you know, you've gone slightly out of the city, so it's very much dependent on where you are, and the people you're with and things. So
yeah, very, very true. And I think she's also been a really good role model for kids in terms of the body diversity thing. So I mean, it must be, again, like, you know, I'm quite ignorant of it, I suppose, because when I was growing up, obviously Facebook wasn't around, Instagram wasn't around, we didn't have to always present our best selves online, like the internet wasn't even a thing. And so it's, you know, like kids have a really, really hard time of all, you know, just seeing all these influencers with their perfect lives, and it's just so misrepresentative, and like the body image is so misrepresentative that it just must be like a daily struggle for a lot of people. So to have somebody like her promoting wider body diversity, I'm not sure I'm really keen on seeing an older version of Love Island.
No.
But, you know, other people might. So, yeah, it could be one to watch out for in the future, I suppose.
No, it's true. And we do need the fact that she's even being called curvy. Like, why do you have to call her anything at all? It's just pathetic, I think. I'm so sick of, you know, you hear all these stupid fads about cutting out fat from women's cheeks now and to give them that gaunt. Have you heard about this? This is the latest trend. And you're just like, why does the media just keep telling women to despise themselves? Because that's all it comes down to. And it's like, you know, social media is not real. And she made that really good point. She's like, oh, you know, you see these images. And I think she used herself as an example. She's like, it's not real. It's, you know, hours of airbrushing, filtering, cutting. Like, well, it's not reality.
Yeah.
And even phones now, they're built in, aren't they, to just smooth out blemishes. I didn't realise. I was like, God, I'm looking good for my age. And my friend Emma's like, no, let's just... And I'm like, what is this? She's like, yeah, you've got this thing on... It's defaulted on your phone to, like, smooth your blemishes. I was like, oh, no, what is that crone? Get rid of this immediately. She's like, that's your actual face. I was like, oh, no, I have age. I'm not 22 anymore, hitting 40. What?
No. Well, yeah, another great job. So thank you for India for joining us on that one. It was really, really cool to have a different kind of, perspective of stuff come forward. So yeah, thank you so much for joining us. If you enjoyed the podcast as much as we enjoyed doing it, please do remember to rate, review and subscribe, because it helps us reach much bigger listeners and audiences. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.